Hi, and welcome back to the Gospel Mom YouTube channel. If you're new here and you're looking for ways to add in supplemental material into your homeschool, you're in the right place. I'm Amanda Welsh, a wife and homeschool mom to 4 kiddos, and I'm passionate about education, homeschooling, and the gospel. Today, I wanted to share some of our favorite 4 supplemental materials that we use in our homeschool this year. So, just a quick note, if you want the full breakdown of how I pick curriculum and some of my top favorite picks, I will link the video to that in the description box. I will reference some of those in the video today. So let's go ahead and dive in. Like in the video that I talk about on how I pick curriculum, I like to start with the foundational subjects first and then layer in anything supplemental that either we have to do because of state requirements. So each state has their own requirements for what you need to teach in your school year if you live in the United States, or adding in additional subjects that my kids just want to learn. So every year when I'm planning the curriculum and the things that we're going to work on for the next year, I always pick my language arts and my math for my kids first. And then I start figuring out how to fit in like geography, history, science, and any of the other subjects that they would like to learn. So for this year, I wanted to share the 4 top resources and books that we incorporated as supplemental material that my kids really loved. They genuinely looked forward to them and that we want to continue to have in our library moving forward. The first book that I'm going to share today is called The 50 States, and this book is by Gabrielle Balkin, and our kids love this book. And as you can see, it's a very, very large book. So I think our kids just liked having this big book, and it's very beautifully done. I really liked how on the beginning it has a map with all of the states, and it's just very engaging. I think that the way that they do the illustrations and the graphics kind of draws the children in. And so we would do this book and we would do 1 state a week. So since we're a homeschool family that goes all year round with 50 states, I figured if we did about 1 state a week, we would get through every state in our school year. So as you can see, and I know this is big, so I'm going to scoot back for a second. So it has 2 pages, I guess, for each state, and it will give like key facts like the capital, the largest cities, the bird, what it's named for, when it became a state, the flower, the statehood order, the postal code name, so for Alabama it's AL, the region, the time zone, and what the state tree is. And then it actually has a little map up at the top so you can see where it is. And we'd like to also go to the big map and have them try and find it on there just as a fun activity. It has like key moments in history to remember. And then it has all of these nice like graphics that have like key facts, and some of them are historical figures from there. Some of it's like land sites and things that are there. And so overall, and then it just gives like a nice little summary section that you can read through together. I really, really liked this book. I felt like at first when we started it, I was a little overwhelmed just with the overall layout. But what I really like about it is that the kids, they even like to just sit down and look at this on their own, and they might not be able to dig into all of it at one time. I think that's why I was kind of overwhelmed, because we tried to do it all kind of in one setting for each state. But it's one that they can go back to like throughout the school year, or just throughout their school in general, and they can continue to learn additional facts. So my son, he really likes to sit down with this one. He was actually reading it to his little sister, which I thought was neat, and he will just even ask questions like, well, what's this park, what's this person, and whatever they kind of gravitate towards when we're going through it. We would always get like library books. So for example, this one, so when we did Alabama, it has the Tuskegee Airmen. And so we actually got some library books on the Tuskegee Airmen to learn more about them. And then I'll also pull in like YouTube videos on whatever landmarks, topics, and things kind of stuck out to them. So this was just another creative way that we incorporated geography. You're getting geography with this. You're getting history with this, and then your social studies, and then sometimes even science, because it talks about like the animals and the plants that are there. So sometimes we would dig in deeper to those. So I thought this was a really good resource. I'm really glad that we incorporated it. Here's another state here, just so you can see. I just think it's a beautiful book. It has a lot of great information in it. I also really liked the back of the book because it has all of the state flags lined up together. And so we'll go through those to try and help memorize all of the states. And then we'll go through the flags together. And then the back, it also has, let's see, where did that page go? The most recent list of all the presidents. So this was something else that we did kind of for like our history, was going through the presidents and things together. I didn't have them memorize all of them or anything like that yet, but I just thought overall really worth this purchase for our school year. I know this is one that we're going to continue using in future years, and I highly recommend adding this book to your library. The second supplemental book that I recommend adding into your homeschool is Window on the World. It's an Operation World Prayer resource. And this is another one where I felt that we got a lot of geography, history, social studies, religious studies. And so it has a ton of countries in here. It also has a world map. I thought the world map was a little bit confusing compared to other world maps, but I still thought it was a good resource that we could go back when we were looking at a certain country to go see where it was on the world map. But a lot of times I would pull up our own world map when we went through this too, just so they could see the different continents and things, how it's broken up a little bit better. But let me show you the beginning here so you can just see like how many countries are in this book. So here's all of the countries that are covered in this book. And it's a little bit wrinkled because sometimes my little ones, when they get a hold of them, they can be rough on them. But thankfully, the rest of the book is not like that. So we really liked to either people that we met. So I'm thankful that we have like a diverse community. So we would have friends from India or Cuba. We have friends from all over the world. So it was really nice to, when we met a friend from a different country, we would do that country that week for school. We also have friends that are missionaries. And so sometimes if they're in a different country, we have friends that are in Norway. So we kind of picked, because there were so many countries and it was kind of hard to be able to cover them all in one school year. So I know this is one we're going to have to do over multiple years. We would pick one every single week. And a lot of times it would be a country that either we had heard of that week, or that we had a friend that we knew was from there, or a missionary friend that was in that country at that time, or a friend that lived there. And so here's an example. So this is Cuba. So we have some friends that we love dearly in Cuba. And it does give the little map up here so you can see the country. We would go find it on our world map together. And then it also has the flag. And then it goes through kind of like a story in it. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then it has a fact file. So it'll tell you how many square miles, the population, the capital, the language that they speak, the main religions that are there, the chief exports. And then it has some interesting facts in there. It has some pictures that you can see. And then one of my favorite parts is it actually has a section in here. It says to help you pray for Cuba. So I loved that for every country, it gave a specific pieces and things that you could think about to pray for that country. So let me give it another example just so you can see another page. So here's another one. So here's Mexico. And so you can see I really liked the different pictures. Every time it talked about a different religion. So we had some friends that were from Nepal. So we were able to dig into that. And when it gave a different religion, like Hindu, so this one's the main religions is Hindu and Buddhist, we talked about what that religion is, what they believe. So I thought it was a really good way to help them learn about different cultures, different perspectives. And again, getting a lot of that geography, history, social studies, but also incorporates like the religion aspect, and then specific ways that you could pray for that country together. So overall, I felt this was a really great resource. Definitely want to continue using this in our school. There's a lot of different countries in here, which I also think is great, but it would be one that I think would be a challenge to get through in an entire school year. So we're definitely going to have to keep doing this one over multiple years. The third book that we incorporated into our homeschool is How Great Is Our God? 100 Indescribable Devotions About God and Science by Louis Giglio. And this one we would actually do 2 days a week since it was 100 days. That way we could still get it done within a whole year. And we use this as part of our science. So every day it goes through and it has a scripture, has a theme, a scripture, and then it talks about whatever that science theme is. And then it also has like additional facts. So for this one, magnetosphere, it talks about what magnetosphere is, and it relates that to the scripture that you're reading about. It has a prayer that you can pray together. And then it also has additional facts. So for this fact, it's talking about how the Earth is actually a gigantic magnet. And it talks about the North and South poles. It talks about different animals and how they're able to sense magnetism and use it to help them navigate, like the blind mole rat. And then whatever the different science topics were for that day, we would again use that for going deeper. So we would get books at the library, we would find documentaries, YouTube videos, and it was really nice because I felt like it kind of just helped us a lot of ways go with the flow. I didn't feel like I had to like overly plan to incorporate something like this, but I felt like with my kids at the ages there are, we're not doing like a formal science curriculum yet. We will be starting to do one of those next year with my third grader, but it was a nice way to still get science incorporated into our school. And we would pick a topic that they had in here. So this one's talking about created to shine. It's talking about different types of stars and how this one even talks about stars and how it helps guide sailors. So it just has a really lot of really great information. And I thought it was very simple. It didn't take a long time to go through it, but it was a very great conversation starter and way for us to dig into science together as a family. So this would be one that I would highly recommend if you're looking for something that is biblical, has scriptures, it's a daily devotion, but then also you can get some science facts pulled into there, and then you can go deeper on the topics that your kids want to go deeper on from a science standpoint. The last book that I want to talk about was our literature study. So I wanted to do more like mature literature, deep, rich reading with my kids this past year. And so the book that I picked was The Little Pilgrim's Progress by Taylor and Sutphin. I might be saying that incorrectly. It actually has a really beautiful like cover that goes over top of it, but of course my kids always take those off the books. I don't know if any of you, if your kids do that too. So those don't last long in our household, but I loved this book. So this was another one that we would try and do 2 chapters a week because it's about, I think it's 98 chapters. So that would help us get through it within a year. And it has some beautiful like illustrations in it. And it is, I mean, it's a big book. Like this is a big book. It took us a while to get through it. It might have even taken us a little bit longer than the school year. Not every page has a picture illustration, but the ones that do, I feel like they're just very beautiful. Like here's another example. But it goes through and it's basically sharing Christian's journey, how you take the narrow path, the walk that we follow like as believers. It incorporates a lot of scripture into it. It doesn't explicitly say in the Bible, it's a fictional book, so it's not a nonfiction book per se, but I feel like it's a really good way to talk about biblical truths with your kid. It has a lot of like deep thought-provoking moments in it. And I like that if you've read Pilgrim's Progress or seen the movies, it can be some parts a little bit scary and mature. I feel like this kind of like makes it more kid-friendly for like younger ages. It puts the characters into animals instead of people, which I thought was really, really cute and sweet. And so this was one that especially my oldest son, so he He just turned 8. So when we started this, he was 6 or 7. But I just thought he really loved it. All of the kids would be very captivated while I was reading it. And we just really loved this book overall. So if you're looking for a big book to do like a literature study or like a nice really read aloud with your kids, it would be a good one for just like bedtime to read a couple chapters at a time, then I highly recommend Little Pilgrim's Progress. So here's how we would fit these supplemental books into real life. We would start in the morning with our gentle and classical board, which if you don't know what that is, I talk about that a little bit in the curriculum video that I have. And we would do our memory work, our verse memorization, our fact memorization. And then when they start doing their morning menus, I would pick one of these books to read out of while they're doing their morning menu, whichever one we would be doing. And then for the 2 older kids, and even my third, even though she was pretty young at the time, I had a journal for her too, just because she wanted to do it. And when we would get done with the reading, so either the 50 States book or Little Pilgrim's Progress, any of them, after we do it, I would give a prompt or a question, like what stood out to you, what's something that you learned, or write a short summary of what we talked about. And they would write a few sentences. Sometimes it would just be a picture. Like if you don't really have the words for what you want to say, if you want to draw a picture for something that you learned. And then we could also use our fun schooling journals that I mentioned in the curriculum video. So it also has writing prompt type questions. So sometimes we would use that with these books. And then I also liked to use those journals. It was just plain journals that you can get at the dollar store to put any worksheets or like mini projects that they would work on that wasn't included in their normal curriculum, or sometimes they would even cut out some of those pages from the normal curriculum. And I like just having the journal to have for the whole year, just to look back and reflect and see some of the things that they learned. So I definitely think that's something we're going to continue for our schooling this coming year, is to just have a journal for writing down different prompts of things that they're learning and capturing those things that we're working on together. Just to share in a little bit more detail so that you can see how this worked for us. So like I said, in the morning, we would do that morning routine with our gentle and classical board. And then on Monday, we would do the 50 States book. Tuesday, we would do the How Great Is Our God science devotional. Wednesday was the Window on the World. Thursday is the How Great Is Our God science devotional. And then on Friday, we would try to do 1 to 2 chapters for Little Pilgrim's Progress. And then during the lunch hour, that's when we would do their core curriculum. So their language arts and their math. And then again, any videos or library books that would go into either the 50 states, the state that we were talking about, the country we were talking about, or the science facts that we were talking about for the week, we would layer in those library books and those videos throughout our school day as well. I hope this video helps show how we layer in some of the other subjects into our school. So as you can see, you can get creative with how you incorporate literature, the geography, the science, the history, religion, social studies, all of those other subjects that you have to cover for the school year. We kind of do it in a creative way and like layer it in like I shared with you. So if this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments what's one supplemental book that your family loves. I'd love to hear from you and see what kind of books that you all are using. And I thank you for tuning in. Have a good one.